increasing the penalties for felons who possess guns. I'm Jill Horner. This is Comcast Newsmakers. With me is Pennsylvania State Representative Todd Stephens. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about a piece of legislation that you are reintroducing. This went through the House last session, but you're putting in again this legislative session. You want to increase penalties for felons who possess guns. You want to put in place mandatory minimums. Why so?
Well, you know, I've seen time and time again felons who illegally possess guns getting either very short jail sentences or even probation sometimes. And to me, that's just completely unacceptable. We've got to make sure that where we have felons who are prohibited from possessing guns, we get tough and we get serious with the penalties. Federally, the penalties are much more severe than we have in Pennsylvania. So to me, it's about time Pennsylvania gets their act together and get our penalties up to a point where we're actually going to deter criminals to keep them from illegally possessing these
And what
guns.
are you talking about in terms of increased penalties?
Sure. On a first offense, my bill suggests it should be a 5-year mandatory minimum state prison sentence. And then on a second offense, it would be what's called a crime of violence in Pennsylvania. And crimes of violence on a second offense are second strikes, so that's a 10-year mandatory minimum prison sentence. And on a third offense or third strike, it would be a 25-year mandatory minimum prison sentence. To me, if we want to get tough or get serious about gun violence, then we've got to get serious about the penalties we impose for those.
Why mandatory minimums, though? Does that take away judicial discretion? Is that part of the concern and part of the reason that this didn't move forward last session?
Well, you know, there are some, it came out of the House 190 to 7. There are some concerns over in the Senate over mandatory minimum prison sentences and the jail population. Recently, we saw in Pennsylvania, we were actually able to close a prison out in western Pennsylvania. And so to me, not that we need to fill them all up right away, but we do have the space, and these are the guys that prisons are made for. I mean, these are felons who are now, once again, thumbing their nose at the system. So to me, these are who we need to put behind bars, and these are who we need to separate from society and hopefully deter them from even committing the crime to begin with.
And let's quickly move over to another gun-related issue in Pennsylvania and nationally. We're talking about the National Criminal Database. Who's currently in that database, and what correlation does this have to something in Pennsylvania, which is PICS, and this is the Pennsylvania Criminal Database?
Right. When someone goes to purchase a gun in Pennsylvania, they're run through a Pennsylvania database called PICS. And PICS has both criminal history information, but it also has mental health records. If you're involuntarily committed in Pennsylvania, you're prohibited from possessing a gun. So as a result, that information is shared with the state police. Up until about 2 weeks ago, Pennsylvania was not sharing that information with the National Background Check System, NICS. So about a year and a half ago, I learned this, and I started pressing the state police. Why aren't we including these records? Why aren't we sharing this data? Finally, in December, I had enough and decided I was going to introduce a bill to require the state police to provide all the mental health information to the national database. I learned about 2 weeks ago they did. They sent 600,000 records to the national database. Prior to that, any one of those folks could have gone to another state, gone through a background check, and it would have come up clear, and they would have been able to purchase a gun elsewhere. So fortunately, the state police took action and are doing the right thing. I'm still moving forward with my bill to make sure that we continue putting those records in moving forward under this or any future administration.
And just a few seconds left, though, but not every state is currently in this national database.
No, and there is a national initiative. Congressman Fitzpatrick locally is pushing national incentives to get every state to put their records in.
Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
We've been talking with Pennsylvania State Representative Todd Stephens. I'm Jill Horner.